Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches. In this video, I want to tell you about and encourage you to submit your work to the digital magazine Dark Moon Lilith. And I'll explain why this is so important to me and I think to all of us. And, in my mind, this is about way more than getting your work in print. It's really about being part of a movement, all right? One that I think is an argument of sorts that stories and words and art made through the eyes of the marginalized, the suppressed, the oppressed, telling stories, making art about taboo subjects, all of that is exactly what we need most. Writing and creating them, publishing them, I think is how we build the world that we are still waiting for. If you don't know me, my name is Johnny. I am the author of Miranda's Garden. I'll put a link in the description if you want to know more about it. It was published by the Dark Moon Lilith imprint. So DML, which is what I will refer to Dark Moon Lilith as just for sake of brevity. It is an imprint, and we look forward to publishing more books in the future. DML is also a digital magazine. All right. I am also a retired adjunct writing professor. I taught primarily academic argumentation and rhetoric. I also taught various forms of writing and film theory. And then after retiring from the institution, I taught fiction and screenwriting in a prison for 3 years. And that was probably my best, most rewarding teaching experience. And I've always had a soft spot for unheard voices. And that's really why DML was born, because I love providing safe spaces for sensitive creatives to explore and make art through words. I believe stories can heal the world. So let's do it together. So first, let's talk about the dark feminine, which is, a big part of the foundation of DML. So Lilith in particular, um, if you don't know about Lilith, there are a few stories about her. She was a very strong feminine force in mythology. She is seen, because she was a powerful woman, there are various stories about her, many that either dismiss the power she had or try to reframe it and make her into be something ominous or evil. The one that I gravitate toward the most is that she was Adam's first wife before Eve, before submissive little Eve. Lilith was married to Adam, and she refused to be submissive, subservient to him. Some stories say that she was booted out of the Garden of Eden. Some say, and this is the one I prefer to believe, um, she left of her own accord. She kind of said, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And she left. And she went off to be a self-contained entity and made her own way on her own terms. She's also attributed with all kinds of other ominous things that I'm not going to go into here because that's not what DML is about. At DML, we view the dark feminine as rich, creative, fertile ground. So it's the subconscious where our creativity lives and breathes and grows. It's a place that we need access to, really, to do our creative work. It's also a place that is often hidden or suppressed or shamed. It's those taboo subjects, like I said, it's being a so-called taboo person. Jung called this the shadow, right? And so he wrote and spoke and taught about what happens when we ignore the shadow. And I talk about this a lot when I coach and mentor people in their writing practices. I sincerely believe that when we suppress our impulse to create, um, that impulse stays in our body. It's an energy, it stays in our body, and it can do all sorts of um, things to us. It can make us sick on all levels, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And so this is why I think creating is absolutely essential to the health of us as individuals and to society. And I also think it's absolutely essential to our evolution as a species. For me, part of this is about going up against, so I think acknowledging the shadow, acknowledging the dark feminine, these so-called dark creative forces. The reason it's called dark is because it is in hiding, right? We don't have ready access to it. And the thing I love about writing myself is that I do get to access that and kind of go in there and swim around in all that dark water. And that's where all the good stuff is. But I think acknowledging it and facing it, both within ourselves as individuals and in society, whether it's social behavior or the systems and institutions that dictate or engender or construct our behaviors, as I said, absolutely essential to our evolution as a species. And so DML is about doing just that. DML is dedicated, excuse me, to the wondrous strange, which is a phrase from Shakespeare's tragedy, Hamlet. So in Act 1, Scene 5, right before Horatio and Hamlet see the ghost of the former king, Horatio says, "O day and night, but this is wondrous strange." And Hamlet responds, "And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome." So what does the wondrous strange mean at DML? Well, it can mean literally writing about seeing ghosts for sure, whether in an essay about a personal experience that you've had, or in a short story or a poem, or depicted in a piece of visual art. So if you do surreal art, like I'm thinking of, what's that artist name? Woodward. Oh, I'm blanking on her first name. But she did very surreal art in the form of photography, where she would use herself as a subject. And then there are these like shimmers or shadows of her in there in different forms. And it's lovely work. The wonder strange at DML can also mean creating work in any um, medium that I've mentioned before, whether it's writing, poetry, or art, that live in the margins and or work that's created by people who live in the margins of genre, of belief, or so-called acceptable conversation. So this might mean subjects about the occult and metaphysical. It might be about the body in all its vulnerability, so about illness and death. I had someone, we published a story about eating disorder. It was a short story about a young woman with an eating disorder. The Wonder Strange at DML is also about politics. And, you know, we want to show the underbelly of social structures, especially at the intersection of identity and power and the unseen. So in this case, the unseen can mean many things at DML. So just use your imagination with that. Ideas you might have that are unseen, unaccepted, dismissed, told, shh, don't talk about that, or that's insane. Those are the kinds of things we want to publish in our digital pages. And someday my hope is that we will be in print. We have been in the past. It's a lot to manage and maintain. We just need a bigger circulation. And I am in this for the long haul. And so I hope you will come along for the ride with me. And this is truly a labor of love for me. There is no money to be had at this point, but this is something that keeps coming back to me and keeps coming back. And so I can tell it's something I just need to do. DML wants work that both disturbs and heals. So, you know, sometimes that can happen in the same breath. We want work that tells the truth sideways. Take that as you want it. We want work that could not have been made by someone at peace with the status quo. So you need to be a bit of a rebel, even if you're a quiet rebel. We want rebellious work from rebellious people. And I will say these days, doing anything to get your voice out in the world, whether it's publishing your own work somehow, publishing it through a publication like DML, having a YouTube channel, having a Substack account, anything like that is an act of resistance. And so we want work about that. We want work about resistance to fill in the blank. So, for example, this is not all inclusive, but here are a few examples. If you're a person who has a chronic illness, whether it's mental or physical, we need stories about that because those things are shunned, they're shamed, they're pushed to the side. I have a few chronic illnesses. To everyone else, I look just fine. And so I am frequently disbelieved and challenged and invited to prove that I am sick. And it's exhausting. If you're a person with a mental illness and you want to disclose that and make it public by writing an essay or a story or a poem or making a piece of art about it, we want work like that. If you're a person of color or a person in the LGBTQAI plus community, we need stories about that and by you. And even if you're in that community, one of those communities, and you don't want to write about that, you just want to submit your lovely poem that you wrote, send it to us. So right now, always, but especially right now, the fucked up white supremacist patriarchy seeks to punish women, people in the BIPOC and LGBTQAI plus communities, so-called deviant thinkers, for existing on their own terms. And we're living in a political climate where bodily autonomy, gender identity, and feminine power are under active legislative attack. So publishing work about the dark feminine or under the cover of it or in the context of the dark feminine is an act of resistance. And I'm going to run a ticker tape um, of kind of a horizontal scroll across the bottom of the screen that shows all the words that describe what we intend DML to do. So keep these words in mind as you listen to me talk and as you consider submitting your work to us. And even as you create work, I hope you will think about these because I think art should do all of these things. And I'm not saying our work can do all of them all at once, but when we all come together as a group who is fucking sick and tired of the status quo, and especially what is happening in the world right now, then I think we need to keep these words in mind because I think art is meant to do all of these things. So I want to say a little bit more about BIPOC and LGBTQAI plus folks. At DML, these voices are the core, not the margin. At a time when books are banning or are being banned or targeted, especially these voices, queer stories, stories of racial identity, stories of the body, DML wants to center them. So DML isn't just a safe space, it's an act of publication as protest. And about the shadow side of social structures, this might be work about how the shadow of capitalism is exploitation, right? So if you think of your work in that way, um, it might be the shadow of white supremacy as erasure. It might be the shadow of religious fundamentalism as control. So we are not opposed to writing stories or focusing on work that is about religion per se, but it's religious fundamentalism. So Christian nationalism. No, take that shit somewhere else. It might even be about how systems like the nuclear family are a kind of, the traditional nuclear family, I should say, are a kind of built-in oppression for so many people. It's exclusionary, it's oppressive. A lot of people are like, man, don't come after my family. Then you're not thinking about it on a theoretical basis. And if you have a happy family, kudos to you. Awesome. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the nuclear family as a system, as a structure in society that was created for very particular reasons. DML names and publishes Into the Shadow of all these things and more. And this is all I would say an extension of my spiritual practice. And I want to explain what I mean by that. When I hear people say they don't pay attention to politics or they try to stay away from them, internally, I simultaneously belly laugh and scream. It is not possible to stay away from politics. Everything we do and have and maybe are is influenced and impacted by politics. It's built by politics. Did you eat today? There's politics behind that. How you got your food, if you were able to get it, how much it cost, and of course, how that food came to exist in the first place. That is all political. So send us your political work. Also, we want it and we need it. The connection between the spiritual and the political has deep historical roots. So think about the abolitionists, the suffragists, the civil rights leaders, and indigenous resistance movements. They have always woven spirituality into justice work. And DML wants to continue that lineage. DML exists with the heartfelt conviction that one day there will be a more accepting, more loving, more awake world, one in which we all are finally free to sing our soul's songs. Now, at a moment when many people feel despair about the direction of the world, we want to offer radical hope grounded in creative resistance. If you haven't been paying attention, please do now. Our freedom of speech is at risk. So look at the news. Look at who's getting hired and fired at legacy news outlets. Pay attention. Don't pretend this doesn't affect you, that it isn't about you, because it absolutely does and is. And if you feel helpless about what you can do, start by using your voice. So send us your work. Let's make a difference together. That's it for this video, lovely writers. As always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.